Welcome to Hero Villains. Thank you for always watching and supporting the channel. Who do you think would win in a fight between Apocalypse and Mr. Sinister? Apocalypse is one of the most powerful mutants in the Marvel Universe, possessing abilities such as superhuman strength, durability, teleportation, shapeshifting, and the ability to manipulate his own molecular structure. He can also absorb and enhance the powers of other mutants. Mr. Sinister, also a powerful mutant, has abilities that include superhuman strength, agility, and durability, as well as advanced genetic manipulation and teleportation. He is a master strategist and has extensive knowledge of genetics, allowing him to create and manipulate mutants. Before we dive into the analysis, please hit the subscribe button and remember to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thank you very much. Sinister is a genetic genius with a superior intellect, but his power is still limited compared to Apocalypse. He not only understands Apocalypse well, but is also deeply aware of the difference in power between the two sides. Therefore, he is forced to use his intelligence and science to find a way to overthrow this ruler instead of confronting him directly. By manipulating genes, Sinister has conducted a series of experiments to create warriors capable of fighting Apocalypse. Cable and Nate Gray are the two clearest examples of his ambition. Both possess superior mutant abilities. They are designed to have the potential to surpass Apocalypse, something Sinister has never achieved despite possessing many genetic enhancements. Sinister's actions not only show his calculation, but also show his powerlessness before Apocalypse. He understands that no matter how strong he is, he still cannot directly confront this enemy without a strategic card. Sinister chose to stay in the shadows, manipulate events, and use the most powerful pawns he could create, hoping that one day Apocalypse would eventually be overthrown by his own creations. Sinister always believed that the only way to defeat Apocalypse was through science and controlled evolution. He relentlessly refined, experimented, and created the most elite mutants with the goal of turning them into the ultimate bioweapon. Each individual he created was the pinnacle of genetic technology, carrying within him the potential to defeat Apocalypse. However, just as Sinister was about to reach the final stage of his plan, Apocalypse struck first. With his sinister and vision beyond his time, Apocalypse delivered a fatal blow to Sinister's plan, infecting Nathaniel Summers with the techno-organic virus. The virus was not only a tool of destruction, but also a declaration of power, showing that Apocalypse was always one step ahead of Sinister. It prevented Nathaniel from reaching his full potential, leaving Sinister's best creation as an incomplete piece. This was not only a tactical failure, but also a blow to Sinister's pride. Although another version of him in Age of Apocalypse had the chance to carry out his plan, in the 616 universe's reality, he never came close to success. Apocalypse was always an impenetrable barrier, and Sinister, no matter how talented, was still just a puppeteer from the shadows. Sinister was not simply a mutant with superior abilities, he was a constantly evolving entity, a nightmare without end. From a man with scientific ambitions, he became an artificial entity enhanced by Apocalypse's technology. But that was never enough. He does not stop at a single individual, but has transformed himself into a hive mind system with countless copies, each with its own unique characteristics, all with the same purpose: to control, manipulate, and ultimately dominate. Each individual Sinister is not just a mere copy, but also has a certain independence, but all are still bound by a central mind. He can be destroyed, but never truly die. Even when destroyed, another copy will arise, continuing to carry out his plan. He can appear in many places at once, creating complex plots, exploiting and manipulating the DNA of the most powerful mutants to enhance himself. Sinister's existence is not just a challenge with terrible power. He is an immortal will, an entity that cannot be completely destroyed, a nightmare that can be reborn from its own ashes. He is also the bearer of the Celestial Death Seed, a Phoenix-class celestial artifact designed to ensure the continued evolution of intelligent life on Earth. He is a sphere of power and a nebulous card that cannot be quantified beyond fearsome. The battle between Apocalypse and Sinister has never been just a normal confrontation. It has been a deadly dance that has lasted for centuries, a never-ending game of chess. Apocalypse possesses absolute power, unshakable dominance in direct combat. But Sinister does not fight with muscle, he fights with strategy, with the tenacity of a creature that will never yield. He does not need to win a battle, he just needs to prolong the game until the right moment appears. When the future turns dark and Apocalypse stands at the pinnacle of power, crushing the world under his boot, it seems that Sinister has finally been destroyed. But, in reality, he has never bet on himself. He always understood that he was not the one who could defeat Apocalypse. His true weapon was not infinite selves, not elaborate plots, but a human, a child with the potential to change the entire landscape. In his arrogance and calculation, Sinister created an entity with the most powerful bloodline, the ultimate child of genetic experimentation. A silver bullet sent through time from the past to the future to end Apocalypse once and for all. And in the decisive moment, the very name he had given that child rang out like a fateful mockery of Nathaniel. A new Sinister, a curse, and also his last hope. And then returned to the present to ensure that this future would never come to pass, finally defeating his spiritual form in his attempt to become the god of Apocalypse, the 12 gods. Sinister and Apocalypse are two opposite poles of the same goal: evolution. Apocalypse believes in the absolute law of survival of the fittest, and the weak are ruthlessly weeded out. He has no patience for experimentation, controlled improvement, or long-term planning. For him, evolution must be driven by destruction, by mass slaughter to find the superior individuals. Sinister believes that evolution cannot be left to chance alone. He wants to control this process, shape it to his will, create the most perfect individuals through genetic research and manipulation. When Apocalypse granted him power in 1859, Sinister immediately realized that he could not serve a man who knew only blind destruction. And so, his first act as a horseman of Apocalypse was to betray him. But what is even more terrifying is that Sinister has not only betrayed him once. By 1899, when Apocalypse was reborn and continued his plan for domination, Sinister had not changed his stance. He continued to turn his back without hesitation. This not only showed his resistance, but also proved an obvious truth. Sinister would never accept being a tool of anyone, even if that person was Apocalypse who had given him power. Unlike Apocalypse, who preferred to destroy immediately to prove his power, Sinister chose to wear down his opponents over time, turning everything into a strategic game in which he always had the advantage. He spent centuries refining the ultimate weapon, an Apocalypse killing tool nurtured in the shadows. And in addition to his long-term plans to take down Apocalypse, Sinister also seemed to enjoy harassing him just for his own personal satisfaction. For him, making Apocalypse suffer was not only a strategic goal, but also a twisted pleasure. He didn't hesitate to impersonate Apocalypse himself, summoning the 4 horsemen and staging a grand kidnapping just to get genetic samples from Jean Grey and Scott Summers. And his real motive? A vague promise from Strife of genetic material from the future. He even brought the entire X-Men affiliated army into the fight against Apocalypse simply because he could. For Sinister, manipulating others to achieve his goals was an art. For him, the entire conflict was more than a fight to the death. It was a game he wanted to play to the end, whether to win or just to witness the chaos he had created. Apocalypse is the embodiment of public destruction, a ruthless survivalist dictator who crushes the weak to consolidate his power. But if Apocalypse is a fierce storm sweeping the world, Mr. Sinister is the ghost lurking in the dark, silently manipulating and molding the fate of mutants to his will. Subscribe to the channel, it helps us a lot, and moreover, you will see great videos every day. You are the best. Thank you very much. His fear does not come from absolute power like Apocalypse, but from his ability to control the lives of others in ways that even the victims do not realize. Scott Summers is a typical example. Sinister intervened in his life from the beginning, turning him into a pawn in his game. When Jean Grey died, Sinister refused to lose the opportunity to create an ultimate mutant. He personally created a clone of her, just to ensure that Scott could still give birth to Nate Summers. But even with this perfect genetic weapon, Sinister did not stop at infecting Nate with a deadly techno-organic virus, turning him into a living experiment, a puppet completely under his control. Unlike Apocalypse, who defeated the X-Men with his strength, Sinister chose a more brutal method of destroying their spirits. He played with the minds of Scott and Jean, indirectly driving Jean's clone into madness, causing her to become the Goblin Queen. Apocalypse may have been a great enemy of the mutants, but Sinister was an inescapable nightmare. Sinister's corruption was not limited to harming Cyclops. He genetically recreated Angel and controlled him as Archangel. He created a clone of himself in Claudine Renko. He blackmailed Gambit into joining his group, the Marauders. Where Apocalypse is brutal but has his own rules, Sinister has no limits. For him, nothing is sacred, no one deserves mercy. When he ordered his assassins to massacre the Morlocks, a homeless underground community of mutants, it wasn't for strategic gain or survival. It was a literal purge, a mass experiment to eliminate those he considered defective. Apocalypse, however terrible, was a man with a clear intention: to rule the world and create an order based on absolute power. But Sinister was different. He wasn't interested in power alone, he was interested in genetic perfection, in shaping humanity to his own design. He didn't just recreate the DNA of other mutants, he recreated himself, transforming himself from a normal Victorian human into an immortal being. He didn't conquer through war like Apocalypse. He conquers by instilling fear, by cunning, by quietly breaking the will of those he targets. Sinister is more than a powerful villain, he is a plague. A force that no matter how many times it is defeated, will return stronger, more terrifying, and always one step ahead. For all his immense power, Apocalypse is still just a force-amplifying mutant evolution on a single planet. He can strike fear into humanity, and turn the most powerful mutants into his knights, but when compared to Darkseid being beyond the realm of reality, Apocalypse is a local warlord compared to a multiversal conquering emperor. As Apocalypse repeatedly meets resistance from the X-Men, Darkseid destroys entire realities, only to be stopped by the collective might of divine beings and the Justice League. When Apocalypse and Sinister face off against Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung, the battle seems to be nothing more than a game of power. Shao Kahn may be an unstoppable warrior, the ruler of Outworld, but against a being like Apocalypse who can change his body at will, increase his power infinitely, and unleash devastating blasts of celestial energy, Kahn is a roaring beast before a god. Sinister, who has countless clones of himself with similar powers, has no reason to worry about Shang Tsung. The sorcerer may suck souls, but Sinister is not an easy prey to manipulate. For every one he destroys, another one will rise, like a parasite clinging to time and space. It takes more than absorbing souls to destroy him. Apocalypse, an ancient mutant with godlike powers, possesses superhuman strength, durability, regeneration, and the ability to manipulate matter at the molecular level. He is not only a powerful warrior, but also a ruthless strategist, with millennia of experience in conquest. This makes him virtually invincible to most opponents. Mr. Sinister, on the other hand, is a genetic genius with the ability to manipulate DNA and regenerate infinitely. However, despite his superior intellect and cunning, he is still no match for Apocalypse in terms of pure strength. If Sinister has time to prepare, he can find a way to exploit weaknesses or use tactics to weaken Apocalypse. But in a direct, unprepared battle, Apocalypse will crush Sinister without difficulty. With his loyal army, overwhelming power, and infinite adaptability, Apocalypse will win 10 times. Sinister may be smart, but not enough to defeat a god of war. I hope you enjoy this fight. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Follow me if you like. That's it for today's video. Thank you very much.